Hey, thank you for introducing yourself. That's a great.
Excuse me, we're beginning. Thank you.
It's your Jack who wants to introduce your talking points. Oh, so I'll give one for both you and so far so good.
Got 3 minute break. Vice Chancellor Nikolowski, you can begin.
I have a low bar.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be here this morning, seated with my colleague, Vice Chancellor Jose Millan, our partners from Edison International, and behind us from the Foundation for California Community Colleges, to tell you about the Edison International Green Jobs Initiative. This will be a donation of $1 million to 10 community colleges in Southern California to provide scholarships to students who are pursuing green job careers. We are able to leverage that into a $1.5 million gift because of the Osher Scholarship Endowment. We will be working with the colleges to match the new funds from Edison with Osher dollars so that they will their value will increase by 50%. Our students are being trained to be the California workforce of the future. Green jobs is an area where California is already leading. And as you know, many of our students, when they don't succeed, it's often because they lack the financial resources to stay focused on their college education. And this gift from Edison International will go a long way towards making sure that these scholarship recipients can be successful in their field. With that, I'm going to turn this over to Vice Chancellor Millan.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor Mikulowski, members of the board, Madam President, Chancellor Scott. It gives me great pleasure and is a great honor to introduce to you Ambassador Gadi Vasquez, who's the Vice President for Public Affairs for Southern California Edison. Ambassador Vasquez was the ambassador to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization in Rome, Italy. And there he was the leading voice in the war against hunger, poverty, and disease. He is a former director of the United States Peace Corps as well. And he began his 28-year tenure in public service actually as a police officer in Orange, California. Ambassador Vasquez is also a very proud member of the California Community College Alumni Society, which has not yet been created, but the foundation, I'm sure the foundation is working on that. Being a graduate of Santa Ana City College, a proud graduate, and I'm sure that it was that experience that launched his public service career and his luminous career pathway that has brought him to this level. So with that, it does give me great pleasure, and as I said, it's a great honor to introduce to you Ambassador Gadi Vasquez, who actually is a descendant of migrant farm workers from Texas. So even more reason to be proud of his accomplishments to date. Ambassador.
Thank you very much, Vice Chancellor and Madam Chair and members of the board. First of all, let me begin by saying that it's a great honor to be able to speak before you today. A number of you I've had the opportunity to work and collaborate with over literally a number of decades. But as the Vice Chancellor mentioned, one of my great memories of schooling and education was my education at Santa Ana College. And it opened many doors of opportunity to start as a police officer in the city of Orange and ultimately be able to serve the United States of America as ambassador and as director of the Peace Corps, which during my tenure we launched a national initiative to recruit Peace Corps volunteers from community college campuses with the American Association of Community Colleges, because I do believe that one, community colleges produce some very outstanding students who are also globalists in their thinking and have great aspirations, and I can tell you that we had considerable success thanks to that partnership, and California was a leader in that regard. And today I have the privilege of representing Southern California Edison to announce the launch of an initiative, which is the Green Jobs Education Initiative. I want to thank members of the staff and the vice chancellors who have been partners in the development of this project. As was mentioned, this will be a partnership that we believe will result in some great opportunities for our great state, because nothing is more important, in my view, and as someone who spent most of his life in California, although born in the state of Texas, that I believe that California's, frankly, greatest days are still ahead. And I think much of that will come as a result of programs like the one that I want to speak to very briefly, but to highlight for you, because I do believe that, as has often been said, that Californians are people of amazing talents, of creative abilities that have historically led the nation in many arenas. So like all Californians, all of us at Southern California Edison want to do what we can to provide opportunities for growth and for success. And that is what this Green Jobs Education Initiative is all about. It addresses four very important needs in our state: the area of education, the area of the environment, the area of employment/jobs, which Lord knows we need many of, and the economy. We cannot excel unless we have the best and brightest minds at work. During my tenure as Director of the Peace Corps and as Ambassador to the United Nations agencies, I had the privilege of traveling to over 80 countries. And so I had the opportunity to see education, development programs, grassroots development, sustainable development work, and to see how when people become engaged in capacity building, great things can happen. And so consequently, education is a very, very important dimension of what Edison is committed to and has been one of our company's top priorities. In 2009, we spent nearly $7.5 million of our philanthropic budget on education programs. We know its value and its importance, and we back that up by supporting effective programs. And so as part of Southern California Edison's commitment to environmental stewardship, we take great pride in partnering with the community to help create a greener future. The emerging green industry sector is recognized as a source of good-paying jobs and is also a new equity arena for people from minority communities across this great state. This Green Jobs Education Initiative presents an opportunity for Southern Cal Edison and for the community college system of California. The initiative will be funded with $1 million. It will be invested in 10 of the state's best community colleges, where students will learn what they need to learn to work in the green economy, and where this funding will help students to re-enter the workforce with marketable employment skills. Our company believes in academic strength, and that community colleges hold that capacity in developing workforce training programs which are successfully preparing students for work in areas of high demand, such as the expanding green sector. In collaboration with educational institutions such as the California Community Colleges, we aim to foster academic success, but also the development of an energy workforce of the future. The focus of the initiative is to help develop a vibrant green-collar workforce to fill the need for jobs in industries that help the environment. And Edison is proud to announce this partnership with 10 Southern California community colleges. Each college will receive a $100,000 grant to provide scholarships for students who demonstrate financial need and who are studying in established green jobs training programs. The selected colleges offer programs in the areas of studies including renewable energy generation, transportation and alternative fuels, green building and energy efficiency, biofuels production, and farming, water and wastewater management, and environmental compliance. The selected 10 colleges will also be considered for funding at the same level for a second year based on the outcomes from this funding year. The 10 community colleges serve a broad cross-section of students across the state, from Ridgecrest at the north all the way to Huntington Beach to the south. The recipient colleges are as follows: Cerritos College in Norwalk, Edison Green Jobs Technology Scholarships; Cerro Community College in Ridgecrest, Industrial Technology Program; El Camino College in Torrance, Environmental Technology. Golden West College in Huntington Beach, Environmental Studies, Renewable Energy Programming. Long Beach City College in Long Beach, the Power of Green, Advanced Transportation Technology, Alternate Fuels and Electric Vehicles, Horticulture Program, and Electrical Technology Programs. Los Angeles Southwest College in Los Angeles, Environmental Science and Technology Programs. Los Angeles Trade Tech College in LA, Green Workforce Education Initiative. Rio Hondo College in Whittier, Alternative Energy Technology and Alternative Fuels Program. San Bernardino Valley College in San Bernardino, the Green Network. And Ventura College in Ventura, Career and Technical Education. Now more than ever, we have to think creatively, and no one knows that more than you and the outstanding staff and leadership that's in this room and across this great state on the campuses of community colleges. But collaboration is important to ensure continued success in our communities. And so on behalf of Southern California Edison, I want to thank you, Madam Chair, and members of the board, for inviting us to introduce our Green Jobs Education Initiative to the Board of Governors today. We look forward to our continued relationship with each of our community college partners. We believe that community colleges are successfully preparing students for work in the new green industry, and we are excited and honored to be part of that process and that success ultimately. Madam Chair, thank you again for the opportunity to be with you today and the opportunity to highlight Edison's Green Jobs Education Initiative, and it is an honor and a privilege to announce this partnership and this initiative in collaboration with all of you. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for coming here and doing this, and our chancellor would like to talk, and then our board members will talk to you.
Well, it's good to have you here, Mr. Vasquez. I lived for quite a while in Orange County. I was president at Cypress College, and I remember reading your name and the many things that you were involved in that county. And so it's good to have you here. And I'm also so excited about what Southern California Edison is doing for the Southern California community colleges. I've actually witnessed some of that at Trade Tech, for instance. I visited their green technology work, and I've also visited the solar panel initiative up here in American River College. And I think the community colleges are just taking the lead in recognizing all of the jobs that are going to be available, and we can take these individuals and train them in a relatively short period of time and make a tremendous contribution to the recovery of California's economy. So we're thrilled with what that Southern California Edison has done for California community colleges. We're confident that this can even be greatly increased as a result of the OSHA initiative. And thank you for your leadership, and thank you for coming here this morning.
Thank you, Chancellor. Thank you.
Member Perez.
I just want to commend you for the foresight and the innovativeness. And that my question did have to do with the OSHA Foundation. Are we going to be able to leverage this through the foundation to enhance it? Okay.
Yes, we will. The donations will be made directly to the 10 community colleges, but we will work with them to use those funds to match the OSHA fund so that their value will increase by 50%.
Member Baca, and then Vice President Himmelstein.
Well, it's good to see Ambassador Vasquez again. It's been a long time, and he was a police officer when I was working at the Orange Friendly Center, and at that time we were trying to get folks on the straight and narrow together, and I think we did in some cases, maybe not in some others, but in any case, it's good to be able to work with you on this kind of initiative, and thank you, and thanks for Southern California Edison for the work that they've done. I've done some work at Rio Hondo College on the environmental program there, and I know we're just taking off in the last couple of years. So the kind of support that we get there from Southern California Edison is very much appreciated, as I'm sure it is at the other colleges as well. I just want to say that, in terms of our earlier discussion, this is certainly one of the areas where I know we didn't single it out, but it's part of our advocacy work, and for sure. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Vice President Himmelstein.
Yes, Ambassador, let me also join in thanks to you and your company for this. Just out of curiosity, other than your, obviously these colleges being in your service area, what was were there other criteria in determining which colleges got the grants?
There was a process where the colleges were invited to make application and to submit proposals to the Southern California Edison Company, which was then reviewed by a committee. And of course, it had to be in line with our educational priorities, because education is one of the major commitments that we make at a corporate level in terms of the philanthropy that Edison supports. And so consequently, there was a process that was put in place, and the colleges were selected on that basis.
Great. So these colleges showed a lot of initiative in going after this. Great.
Yes.
I just want to add to what Ambassador Vasquez has mentioned as the process by which these colleges were selected. The process actually began with a luncheon that was open to all of the community colleges within Southern California Edison's service area, and that's like 40 colleges. There were quite a few that were at this luncheon. I attended that luncheon as well, and the process was explained to them. They were invited to compete for these funds, and then they submitted their application in, and the process then identified these 10 selected winners.
Great. Board Member Reed?
I'm just curious about, has Edison estimated the potential of this green job program as to eventually how many people might be employed in this industry?
Well, it's early in the process, and I couldn't offer you specific numbers, but I think it's fair to say that the opportunities are very significant, but it's moving with such speed in so many different arenas, from technology to renewables. You know, when you talk about solar, when you talk about wind and electric vehicles and all the technologies that are merging almost simultaneously, it is an enormous potential for California and the country. So I think California, being a leader on many of these fronts, will enjoy jobs and multipliers that will be very, very substantial.
Board Member Larwood, and then McDonald.
Thank you, and Mr. Ambassador, I just wanted to indicate that I am familiar with the green jobs that are working in Saracoso Community College District, and there's a tremendous expansion in that area. So I know you must have picked those that are active in that area to make this possible, and really appreciate the work that you're doing there.
Well, thank you very much. It was a very thorough process, and I think it's worth mentioning that we will continue to be interested not only in terms of the funding and the provision of those funds, but also to looking at the impact that those programs have on creating new job opportunities, and also measuring the success rate of the students who are partners in this endeavor as well. So that will be important for us to see on the back end what those outcomes, what those impacts are.
Member McDonald.
Ambassador, thank you very kindly for your help and your support, and also thanks for Edison for always being forward in the community and always being forward thinkers. This is really something that's positive, especially with all the negative is out there now. This is very, very positive to come forward, especially in Southern California and our community colleges. And again, congratulations on being at Edison now.
Thank you.
Board Member Price, and then Haley.
On behalf of the students, I'd really like to thank you. This is very exciting, and I believe it's going to have a huge impact on the students it's going to serve.
Thank you very much.
And Member Haley.
Yes, Ambassador, thank you so much for being here, and for this is so exciting for us. It's just it's a little overwhelming, as a matter of fact, $1 million that will be extended out to the colleges. I was interested in the comment that you said that the follow-up will be to find out some more about the students and how they did. And will you all be doing that, or will we as the community college have some part of helping you do that? Or
You will lead the way. We will be the partner who will be interested in understanding the outcomes, in the sense that once the community colleges take control of their respective programs, we certainly have full confidence in the ability of the colleges that have been selected to administer the program. But we will be interested in knowing, as I think anyone would be, in terms of wanting to know, how the program evolved, how things were implemented, and perhaps most of all is what the net result was. And that's something that's important to us as a company, is to ensure that the investment and the partnerships that are established achieve results. And if there are things that we can do better to achieve even greater results, then we're always open to that conversation.
Oh, okay, thank you. I didn't know if it was our staff and the ball's in our court, to get the information back out. Thank you.
Member Baum, and then Member Ramos.
Sure. Thank you very much. I'm a native of Orange County and familiar with Ambassador Vasquez's long career. And we're honored to have him represent our community for a long time. This also ties back to the awards and honors we gave out earlier. What's so reassuring or inspiring is, despite the budget crisis and all, instead of hearing what we can't do for lack of resources, the programs we honored earlier and the programs you've brought to our attention through the Green Jobs initiatives show the innovation that is happening and what can be done despite all the other signs up and down the state. And so I want to salute Edison's leadership, but also take this opportunity to telegraph to the districts around the state that there are opportunities to innovate, and then the corporate community will be a partner with us in that innovation. And so that local districts, rather than talk about how the sky is falling, can find ways to continue to innovate and find ways to make things happen. And so this is just a beacon of inspiration for others all across the state. Thank you very much. And then I want to encourage the rest of the corporate community to also be partners with the community college system to see the leadership that Edison is having, and hoping that other corporations see the value in working with the community college system.
Thank you. Member Ramos?
Thank you. Yeah, well, my question actually builds directly on Jeff's comments, and I share the kudos, Ambassador, for the leadership and the vision on this. I wonder how we might be able to work not only together but with you to lift up and leverage this important innovation and approach. It seems to me that obviously you have your limitations in terms of the dollars you can expend, which are generous, and you have a certain geographical limitation that you're obviously invoking here for reasons that we respect, but it's a big state. And certainly, not only within that region, there are other students that could benefit from this, and across the state through other alliances with private corporations and foundations. So what, in your judgment, would be the most appropriate ways for us to ensure that we can indeed leverage this support to make it a larger, more impactful, and more far-reaching effort?
Well, I think one of the greatest components of leveraging is success. And if we can demonstrate that this investment and this partnership is successful and achieves the kinds of results that we believe that will be achieved, I think that's probably the greatest testimony and testament that you can offer to others who may be considering or contemplating the possibility of funding programs on a wider geographical scale. I think the other is that, as we've talked about, matching and additional partnership dollars, the success of this program, I think, will also set the stage for those kinds of things to happen as well, because these kinds of partnerships are the kinds of things that can come together in short order, achieve some quick results, and I think begin to set the framework for other programs to expand throughout the state. So I suspect that as a result of this conversation and this presentation today, that we will, in all probability, get some interesting calls to find out more about how this partnership evolved, because I think it's a good one, and I think some good things are going to happen as a result. So I think success will be our greatest margin of convincing others to maybe pursue this as well.
Thank you.
Did you want to say something?
Oh, I just thought that perhaps we can suggest a Pacific Gas and Electric and San Diego Gas and Electric that they might follow the lead of their corporate leader, Southern California Edison.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for your leadership, and thank you for your gift, and we will do our very best to make it go.
It's our pleasure, and I want to just say on a personal note that, again, as an alumni of a community college here in California under your leadership, that I offer myself as a friend and a voice of support for the work that you're doing as well. So thank you very much.
Bravo.
Thank you. Our next item is back to our usual agenda items. It is 11 o'clock, and I've been informed that Assemblymember for Itani is going to be here at 11:20. So when he arrives, we'll stop what we are doing and spend time with him. I was also told he must be back in the Capitol building at 12 noon, so we're going to go around his schedule. So the next order is our board minutes. Any changes to the minutes? Any corrections?
Move approval of the board minutes, November meeting.
Thank you. Thank you. Member Perez?
I would like to ask for future if the board minutes can also include items that the board has asked to be followed up on, because we seem to lose those items, and I think if we can have that listed on, maybe at the end of the board minutes, follow-up items asked by the board, that would be helpful for us.
And who's responsible?
And who's responsible for the follow-up as well?
I'm lost.
In my case, I tried to take notes, what we need to do, what we need to follow up, so we can do that. And on that note, we got was it our 50% information that you were asking for last time?
Yes.
So we did get sent that. So yes, I think that's a good suggestion. Any other suggestions? And the minute, we don't need to vote on the minutes. The minutes will be accepted, correct?
He made a motion.
Oh, you made a motion, okay.
Don't we approve the minutes?
You have to approve minutes?
Yes.
Thought you just accept them. Thank you. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? And Jerry?
Who moved it and who seconded?
Jeff
I seconded
Baum.
it.
And I moved it.
Okay. Our, oh my. Nothing else?
Do you want to move to item 5.1?
Yes. Is Jose here?
He's out there in the hall. He'll be right in.
Okay. We can move on
I second.
to item 5.1.
That's all right. I'm not going to say anything.
Jeff, get your answer on Pastor answer.
Did I get my answer? Yeah. We'll talk.
Okay, we're ready.
Okay, this item is contracts and grants, and it's the usual listing, but at this time, if the board has questions or comments, we will attempt to answer them. As you know, many of them are economic and workforce development issues, so Jose is present to answer questions, or the rest of us will also try to answer whatever questions you may have.
Move approval of the contracts. and
Second.
grants.
Thank you.
5.1.
Any questions? Member Thomas?
Yes, please, if I could, just a question on item, let's see, it's on page 3, item number 5. It's talking about an annual report being written. I think it's number 5, and then it's parenthesis 5 of the purpose. And I was just wondering, where does this report go? It doesn't indicate who gets the report, it's just to write the annual report.
Page are we on? I have no idea.
I can name
Page 3.
I'm sorry, did you find the, great, thank you.
Actually, I was going to discuss that when the information item comes up later today on the Economic and Workforce Development Program update. This is part of the evaluation process, a component for all of the initiatives funded through that Economic and Workforce Development Program, Member Thomas, and I'll discuss it, elaborate further on it later. But obviously, this is a report that goes to the legislature and the governor on the effectiveness of that program. So that would answer your question.
It does.
And I'll have more to say when the issue comes up later today.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Member Baum?
I had a question on item 13, the grant from the U.S. Department of Energy on energy efficiency. Just following up on the one, and then it said there's no bid processes or proposals received. Is there any background on that, or Are we going to develop a standardized curriculum for the state for renewable energy?
Yes. This is a grant that we received from the U.S. Department of Energy, we being the Economic and Workforce Development Program, of nearly $4 million. And we have a consortium of community colleges that participated in that grant process. We are going to be developing standardized curriculum for all of those participating colleges. And we'll hold it up as model curriculum for the rest of the system.
So will we be, is the system office the recipient of the grant?
Yes.
And so we're awarding ourselves the contract grant? Or?
No, we were the grantee from the U.S. Department of...
So we're just accepting the grant?
Yes.
By this action?
Yes, we are the fiscal agent.
Right, okay. And then we'll be conducting that under your leadership?
Yes.
Member Larwood?
Yes, thank you. On page 11, item 20 on Student Services Division, I note that it's non-competitive, and there's probably a good reason for that. Could you explain that?
I'll defer to my colleague, Mike Kalowski, Vice Chancellor Mike Kalowski.
Yes, ASSIST is an intersegmental project with the University of California to house information about course articulation so that a student who is attending more than one college or preparing to transfer to the University of California or the California State University can use the ASSIST database to determine what courses they need to take that will be accepted by the four-year institution. It's a unique project that is explicitly intersegmental with the university, and they are the fiscal agent for the project.
Thank you.
Thank you. Member Thomas?
Thank you. Just to add to or contribute to my education, on number 14, under the purpose statement, it refers to something called DBEs. What is DBEs? I looked all over trying to figure out what in the world that is, and I don't know.
Disadvantaged business enterprises.
Thank you.
Member Davis Lyman?
A particular segment of the small business community that is very near and dear to Member McDonald and Member Perez's hearts, and mine.
Vice Chancellor Millon, I'd
Yes.
like to know on 13, what is the process? Who's developing this curriculum, standardized training curriculum? Are you working with the statewide academic senate? What's happening?
Yeah, all of the local colleges that were members of the consortium that originally joined with us in receiving that grant are assigning the task of developing this curriculum with faculty at those local colleges.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Member Baum?
But we want a standardized curriculum statewide, so.
Right.
So they're not developing individual curriculum at their local district.
No, well, they would be developing model curriculum at the local level, and it would go through the same process through academic affairs for approval to be utilized on a statewide basis.
And then will that curriculum come back through the Board of Governors for, I mean, what happens then? How does it adopt it?
I don't think normally curriculum gets to the Board of Governors' agenda, but if you'd like, we could do an
No,
information.
I just want to know the
we haven't
process.
ever had curriculum.
So once the curriculum is developed, what happens?
It gets submitted to the Academic Affairs Division for review and approval as model curriculum, which is then made available to all the colleges in the system.
Member Davis Lyman?
Thank you. So you're saying it's the regular process?
Oh, yes.
We always use?
Yes,
right?
same
Right.
process.
Thank you.
Same process.
Okay. Any other questions? or
But new money.
Oh, that's good.
All in, I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Or any abstentions? Okay, thank you. Yes.
I think this might be an appropriate time, since we're talking about grants and contracts, and I saw Fred Harris step in the room, so I'm going to call on him in an unexpected manner. I want you to tell them about the grant we've applied for that I think is rather exciting, the energy grant that we've applied for. Now, this is, there's always the possibility we won't get this, but I really appreciated the work that Fred and Eric did, and also the work of the foundation that was very supportive of this. So could you tell them about it, Fred?
Yes, definitely. First of all, definitely key, our teamwork with the foundation. There was a group of folks at the foundation that worked mightily on making this happen. There's $95 million, a pot of money for energy efficiency projects as part of the federal stimulus funds that are going through the Energy Commission, some say somewhat glacially. But we have applied for $20 million of that, which is the maximum amount a single grant can be for energy efficiency projects at our colleges. One particular angle of that grant was to emphasize areas of high unemployment. So it's not necessarily going to cover the full state because we had to target those areas that had high unemployment. But it's there's a lot of interest in that $95 million, but we believe that we have a highly competitive project, especially as nicely put together by the foundation, because there was the emphasis on partnership efforts, and we have had a long-standing partnership with the investor-owned utilities, community colleges and investor-owned utilities, and that was highlighted for something that was going to be given favor. So we're hopeful. As any competitive grant, you won't know until you see the check, but we're hopeful it'll happen.
And maybe this kind of follows what Member Baum said, that we're not just sitting around here crying about lack of funds. We're going out and being as aggressive as we possibly can be about getting funds. And by the way, I was very pleased with the board goals discussion that one of the things you talked about was advocacy. So as many of you have contacts that we don't have, and you can either be instrumental in encouraging the awarding of grants to us or suggesting places we might go to seek grants. We do have a limited amount of staff, but it's sort of full steam ahead as far as I'm concerned, and the staff here in the Chancellor's office is concerned in terms of seeking monies where they might be, whether it's federal grants or, as in the case of Southern California Edison that you heard about this morning, about grants that come to us from private sources.
Thank you.
Can I raise an issue?
Sure.
Just to go back to the board goals.
Sure.
Because we had such a good discussion. Perhaps, and since the Chancellor's already working on the first three that were articulated, maybe we could at least adopt those at this meeting and then leave the door open for adding others through the process.
I agree, that's an excellent idea, because we could get scattered, and 2 months is a long time. We could lose a lot of the year.
And I will, I've already begun discussion with the vice chancellors. One or two of you have mentioned some information that you would like. And we will do what we can to provide you information between now and the next meeting. You mentioned, for instance, information about distance education. We can get that information to you. You mentioned information about wanting to know what's happened in the prisons. I can point out to you that unfortunately a bill which I authored that would have permitted the community colleges to go into prisons was vetoed. But we can go into the prisons via distance education. Whether we can separate out the names of those who are prisoners, maybe we can by address, as far as what we're doing in terms of prisons. And we can also get you information on the programs that we now have for veterans. So we will begin to work within the the limited staff that we have. We will begin to work on gathering information about some of these possible goals that you've mentioned. As was pointed out, the first three goals, since I already knew about those, I have worked on those and will continue to work on those vis-a-vis contacts that I have in the building just 3 blocks from here. But some of these others, we're not prepared today, but I will tell you that certainly within the next 2 months, we can gather some information that would be helpful to you if you decide to use, if you decide to pursue any of these goals.
You want this in the form of a motion?
I was going to say, I don't know if we can vote on something that's not on the agenda. We are already doing it, so I don't know if we need to vote on it today.
If you'd like, I think it would be sufficient if you give direction to the staff that that's your intention, and we can bring it back at the next board meeting for
that's
formal
Madam
action.
Chairman.
What does that mean?
Yeah,
Well, the three that it's the desire of the board at a minimum to move forward on those first three that had been mentioned, so we can prepare that as an agenda item for the next board meeting for action, and you can also add to that between now and then.
And some of those have been mentioned.
Member Larwood.
It isn't that this is new.
Madam Chairman, I do agree with Member Haley that we can't do all things that were listed, even though they may all be good ideas because of just limitations of time, money, and staff. But I think it's critically important that we start now rather than 2 months from now on the first three. There are others that I would prioritize, but I'm not prepared to do that now. But unless there would be some objection by members of the board, I think Member Baum raised a good issue, and so the feeling of the board, unless we hear otherwise, I think we ought to move forward.
Yes, we have moved forward.
Further forward.
Further forward.
And then
Yes.
my question is just also for the process. The reason we can't take action and do a motion just to ratify the first three goals is because it was listed in the agenda under information reports rather than under the action agenda. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And we couldn't do it tomorrow because that wouldn't provide enough notice.
Right.
Also correct.
Okay.
But your three people up here, I believe, have talked to, I would say, almost all the board members, except for our two new ones about this, and we've been working on it, so.
You wouldn't want to be Sarah pulling the board.
So there's no objection from the rest of the board, I guess.
No, I haven't heard it. Member Haley?
Certainly no objection, just further clarification and process. Since we had other ideas that were brought forward, I really think that in addition to making it whatever we're going to have as an action item for next time, that we need to put those ideas on that same item so that we are considering them and determining what we want to do in the future. I repeat, and you've all gotten my point of view, I just would like some accomplishment at the end of a year for some of the goals, and we might not be able to do even our first three that you all have begun working on.
Right. Did you want to speak?
No, I would agree with that. I think it's important that we get going immediately. I agree with you, Anita. The others ought to be brought back as well for consideration.
Definitely.
Next time, it'd be good, perhaps, Chancellor. I thought also if maybe the board members after this meeting could get emailed a list of what those ideas were, so we could all be considering that over the next couple months, if I could request that.
Sure, I have 13 listed here. I tried to listen attentively.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments?
So if I understand correctly, we're going to just look at the first three, bring those back to judge on those, or make those our three goals right now, and then everything else will fall into. And we can't do anything right now, so we got to vote on it. But the other ones, we won't be able to take any action or anything till the next meeting.
Correct.
That's correct.
Formally.
I got you. That I will, as I've indicated to you, those about which you sought information, I will try to provide you with information between now and then. It'll take some time. You asked for information on distance education, on veterans, and on distance learning. And I've already begun work on the first three goals, and some of the others, such as the discussion today about the foundation, should be sufficient to determine what should be on the action item next time. And some of the others we could simply list, and then next time you can either say these are our goals, or we have prioritized and decided that 3 or 4 of these are great ideas, but we can't tackle them this year, or they don't want to be raised to the level of a goal. But I will have no hesitancy in listing whatever you want to list so that you can take action on those things. But I'll ask Steve for an interpretation here, but it's my understanding that now if we list board goals as action items, that that would be sufficient. I don't mind listing these that you've mentioned, but suppose you come up with another one. If it's an action item, could we adopt that?
At the next meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so-
As long as the agenda says action item on board goals, the board can add to the list as it wishes. And we will get the agenda item will provide a list as the chancellor has indicated, so that people who receive the agenda, the public and others, will know what the topics are that are up for consideration. So yes, that can all be presented at the March meeting, which is March 1st and 2nd, so it's even less than 2 months away. So we'll get right on it.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? I see Mr. Board Member Reed. No, Board Member.
You know, one thing that I find I just want to ask this one question of the Chancellor. There was a time when we had some major issues facing us in between our regular scheduled board meetings. And there was a conference call set up among board members, and I think it was Chancellor Drummond, doesn't matter, briefed us on some issues. And this board has expressed privately to each other that they'd like to be more engaged as the board member in the information process, if you will. And I'm just wondering if it wouldn't be to our advantage to schedule 2 or 3 of those meetings during the course of the year. And I'll go back to Member Perez about distance learning. I'd like to be able to call in for an hour and listen to comments that you might have about ongoing issues that are facing the community colleges in between our board meetings, not for action item, nothing to do with that, but board members could feel free to be conferenced in, and you could share, or your staff could share some of the pertinent issues that are ongoing, maybe between board meetings, so we don't feel this lack of information, because it's, like the last time we met was like in November, and now we're into January. It would be helpful for me to, as a board member, to stay more engaged in the information process.
All right, let me, some of these things that you have asked for will take some time to gather the information. My intention is to mail you that information. But I don't mind at all if, say, in a month from now, you'd like for me to follow that up with a conference call at a certain time, at a certain date, and then those of you who want to could, dial in.
Right.
And that's just fine. But I would like to, before, it won't be very easy for, as I said, there are quite a few of these things that would be helpful. And I'll send out a letter within, say, I don't know, within a month, we'll say, listing these items you've listed with all the information I've been able to obtain from the staff. Then, following that, we could, say, a month, within a week, we could have a conference call that if you had additional questions about the letter that you received.
I think that would be great.
Yeah, just a little bit of clarification, that there is always a 10-day notice requirement for any board meeting. So unless it's an emergency meeting of some sort, and that was the case in years past when we had some of those conference call meetings. It was urgency meetings I think it might have had to do with Compton. And so there was need to act right away. But yes, you certainly could have a conference call type meeting as long as there's 10 days notice.
Okay.
Would it be appropriate to have a conference call for the board members just to discuss the goals in the next 2 or 3 weeks? Is that an appropriate subject for a teleconference?
Any subject the board wishes to have on its agenda is an appropriate subject, as long as you provide 10-day notice and it's open to the public.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Okay, we are now going to change to welcoming Assemblymember Itani. He's welcoming his guests.
Okay.
I think I'll start by talking about Assemblymember Itani. We're very pleased to have you here today. You are a great friend of the community colleges in California. You have over 40 years of experience as a community organizer, an elected official. He was a member of the Los Angeles Community Colleges District Board of Trustees, and then elected in 2008 to the Assembly. He's shown great leadership on community college issues by establishing the first community college legislative caucus that includes legislators who have a personal legislative commitment to advocacy and expanding community college opportunities in the state. He's here today to talk to us about the implementation of an important piece of legislation that he authored, AB 37. It was passed and signed by the governor last year. It calls on the Board of Governors, the UC Regents, and the CSU trustees to work with colleges to provide honorary degrees to former students who were unable to complete their college education because they were interned during World War II simply because they were of Japanese heritage. Please welcome Assemblymember Itani, who will talk about this important project, and then we'll hear from some other very special guests. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Doctor. It's a pleasure to be here. Chancellor Scott, nice to see you as well, and members of the Board of Governors. As was shared by Debbie, I have served on the Los Angeles Community College Board in the past for 10 years. I'm here to tell you just straight away, I love community colleges, and since Jack left the legislature, I hope I am looked to, along with people like Marty Block and Paul Fong, as really advocates and champions for what you're trying to do, and I look very much forward to working hand in hand with the efforts that you were trying to put forward and that we are thinking about as well. This particular bill, AB 37, is one of those things where you have this really special opportunity, if you're an elected official, as you well know, to sometimes be able to right past wrongs. And I put this under the general heading of unfinished business. When I served on the Los Angeles Board of Education, a group of Nisei second-generation Japanese Americans came to me and said, look at Warren, we were in high school when we were put in camp, and we never got the benefit of the graduation or the ceremony or the accomplishment that we were a part of during that time, and I was able to confer the first high school diplomas on Japanese Americans that were in high school during World War II. That was done on a school-by-school basis, and later at Roosevelt High School, Nisei, who was given her diploma, a very petite but very strong, young, older woman actually, asked me to bend down to whisper something in my ear, and she said, doggone it, Itani, I sure could have used this 30 years ago. And not that these diplomas that we're going to be conferring on college students at the community college level, Cal State level, and University of California level are going to use these degrees to try to muscle young people out of jobs in the labor market. But it is going to be an acknowledgement, an affirmation not only of individual accomplishment, but I think the fulfillment of a dream. One thing about the Japanese American community, and Lance knows this so well, being a leader in our community as well, that the Japanese American community oftentimes found the best way to be an American is to try to be more American than anybody else. And one of the things in the American dream was college. And I found also very interesting that if you look at the individuals that will be getting these degrees, and we've had 3 ceremonies at the University of California already, San Francisco, Davis, and Berkeley, you'll find a large number of the graduates or the recipients are women. So during that time of World War II, not only Japanese American, but Japanese American women, the community really recognized the importance of higher education. So not only was it a shock relative to their citizenship being pulled out of their communities to be put in camp, but the fact they couldn't pursue their educations also was sort of a bit of a double whammy relative to their situation. Ironically, though, several organizations, along with the Quakers and other groups, organized when Japanese Americans were in camp to help them get out of camp to go finish their college degrees at universities in the Midwest and on the East Coast primarily. So they were able to continue their education for a large part, but actually most of them did not. So this falls under the heading and the rubric of unfinished business. And one thing about community college that you well know is that this is the people's college. This is the place where regular folks come. This is the door that gets opened to immigrants, everybody relative to pursuing this dream of a college education. So as we've done the lofty UC programs, and UCLA is going to have a big event in May, we're starting now to roll out the Cal State University programs and projects. But as you well know, not all the campuses at the UC or CSU level existed during World War II. We're also really excited about the community college efforts because this is where the vast majority of the graduates you're going to see come forward. And although I get credit for doing the bill, really the idea wasn't mine. The idea started, and I learned about this later, from Sierra College, but also College of San Mateo, where I once went myself. And a professor there started the program, and he had a graduation ceremony, and I was fortunately to be asked to come and be the keynote speaker because I was a student at that time, also was able to have this bill presented to the legislature. So it's been an interesting process, something that I just was sort of quietly doing relative to finishing up some loose ends, has really developed what we call legs relative to policy and politics. Having these programs throughout the state has really not only been exciting, but it was most importantly what we call a teaching moment. An opportunity for people to learn, to revisit, to reaffirm, and for many, many still to this day, for the first time to hear about this situation. So these graduation ceremonies are not a situation of only conferring the honorary degrees on the individual, but I have found that all of the campuses thus far and all the experiences I've seen and heard have been so positive relative to the current graduates and them opening up their ceremonies to welcome the Nisei along with them as an opportunity to right this wrong and to learn from this period of history. So I think the most important part of this is the individuals. And I have with us today several individuals from, I believe, Sierra College. I just met them this moment that were part of the program that they did independently onto themselves at that campus. And I believe they're going to be speaking next, if I understand correctly.
Well, I thought we might hear from the representatives of the community from the Japanese Cultural and Community Center of Northern California, and then we'll have the Sierra College people talk about what they have done.
Good afternoon, Board of Governors. Thank you for allowing me to speak today about the California Nisei College Diploma Project. My name is Jeffrey Chu, and this is Aya Ino. We're both project coordinators for the California Nisei Diploma Project, which is being run by the Japanese Culture and Community Center of Northern California in San Francisco's Japantown. This project really came to fruition after the JCCC&C received a grant from the California Civil Liberties Public Education Program. The main purpose of the CA Nisei project is to provide critical outreach with the Japanese American community and to work in conjunction with the California higher education systems. And the real goal of the project is to ensure the successful implementation of Assemblymember Furutani's Assembly Bill 37. Actually, this past November, we've begun work with the University of California to help find their Nisei honorees. And with about a 1 month time frame to find over 700 former students from UCSF, UC Davis, and UC Berkeley, we were able to identify and locate over 400 of the students, and there are students still coming forward to this day. From this experience, we are more aware of what we need to help you and to also give you some advice to make sure that we find every one of the Nisei students. And I will speak to you now.
We found it very helpful for each of the campuses to establish a main contact person who will work with your school, community groups, and the California Nisei Diploma Project staff to ensure all eligible students or their families are identified and recognized. It's also great if you can find an advisory committee or a task force of Japanese Americans, Asian Pacific Islander interested faculty and staff, or student organizations on your campus and community leaders. You want to talk about the connections?
Which one? In order to us to best help and outreach for and work with you guys, there's a couple things that we found that are very useful. One, to have the honoree lists from each college forwarded to us. We found that it's better like when people see an actual name, that it jogs their memory and they'll ask questions and actually go out and find those like their relatives, family members that are still alive. Like I said, having established contact people at the colleges, and even the University of California established a website where we could go to, send them the information, they would funnel it to the appropriate university. And also the communication between both us and the colleges and the community college system is very important. Getting weekly updates that we know what's going on, and also so that you guys know what's going on. And also, we have so many community contacts. We're working with the JACL, contacts in Southern California, Central California, up and down the state, that we have so many resources that we can offer to help you find these Nisei honorees, that it's real important that we communicate and that we work together to make this a very successful program.
So the Chancellor's Office is serving as the liaison between this project, the community groups, and the community colleges that were in existence in 1941 and have the student population. We have been communicating with the colleges, asking them to determine whether they have enrollment lists from that period, and once they, if they have that, which I believe they all do, or most of them do that we've heard from so far, to identify names that they either know are Japanese American because they have ethnic data, or that they suspect are maybe Japanese American. And it's a tremendous resource that the community is working directly with the colleges to actually find the individuals, or in the case of individuals who are deceased, their families, so that they can be linked with the college to take advantage of this opportunity. And it is our expectation that when graduation ceremonies occur this spring, that the vast majority of colleges, if not all colleges, will in fact be able to incorporate a ceremony to honor their former Nisei students. As Assemblymember for Itani stated, Sierra College was ahead of the curve on all of this. In 2000, they launched a project called Standing Guard. It was initiated by a professor of photography and applied art and design, Rebecca Gregg, who saw this as an opportunity for her students to engage in a living history project. And so Dr. Gregg is here, along with Deb Sutphin, who's Dean of the School of Liberal Arts Development Department, and we have 2 honorees as well. So I'm going to turn the microphone over to them to talk about what was done at Sierra College.
Well, while they're changing places, thank you very much for doing this. Very, very good. It's a long time ago.
Yes, and as I said, President, that it's really been a great teaching moment.
Yeah.
And the responsiveness of the campuses and the students relative to opening up their ceremonies to include the Nisei has been really heartwarming. But it's been a really great opportunity for these young people in their early 20s that are graduating to share the dais with individuals that are in their 80s. So it's been a real great coming together of experience.
Yes, yes. Well, please go on.
Good morning. I'm Deborah Sutphin. I'm Dean of Liberal Arts at Sierra College, and I'd like to introduce first Marie Hayashida. Mrs. Hayashida lived in Loomis now lives in Rockland, near Sierra College, and Mr. Frank Guetta. On the end, Frank also lived in Loomis and now lives in Rockland. Both Marie and Frank received honorary degrees from Sierra College in 2007. They weren't necessarily students at Sierra College. Our Board of Trustees chose to honor the folks who did go to Sierra College and then were interned, who probably would have gone to Sierra College and then were interned, and also people who worked on the Standing Guard project, which I'll talk about in just a moment. And then on the end is Professor Rebecca Gregg, Professor of Photo and Applied Art and Design at Sierra College. A little background on what started our honorary degree at the ceremony at the college. In the fall of 2000, Rebecca, professor of photography, initiated a project at the college that came to be called Standing Guard. Professor Gregg's idea was to somehow tell the long overdue story of Placer County's Japanese American citizens and the impact of them of World War II internment. Gregg had initially planned to tell their story through photography, but when other instructors, including myself, who at the time I was a history instructor, when we became involved, the project quickly grew to become an oral history and photo project. Within a few months, the Standing Guard project at Sierra College had grown to include nearly 100 students, faculty from 12 different disciplines, staff from all levels of work at the college, and about 40 Placer County Japanese American citizens. These were folks who were willing to talk about their experiences before, during, and after World War II, including internment, not easy things to talk about. A California Civil Liberties Public Education Project grant, tremendous assistance from the Placer County Japanese American Citizens League, and extraordinary support from the Sierra College community itself helped those of us affiliated with the Standing Guard Project produce 3 outcomes. The first was this book. It's an oral history and photography book called Standing Guard, and I can pass it around. Published by the college in 2002. Second thing was a beautiful Japanese American remembrance garden on the Sierra College campus that opened in 2007. And the third thing, also in 2007 in the spring, was a ceremony in which 86 of Placer's Japanese American citizens were issued honorary degrees from our college. When the proposal for Sierra College to issue honorary degrees to Japanese American citizens came to Sierra's Board of Trustees in 2006, board members whose differences ranged very widely across the political spectrum voted unanimously in support of the proposal. Barbara Vineyard, one of the board's veteran trustee, said it was simply the right thing to do. So, Rebecca, do you...
I think I only have 2 things to add to those comments that Deborah made, and one is that when we began this project, we really didn't know where we were going in a way, except that we felt imperative to tell a story. And I'll show you the 1942 annual from Placer College, which is where we made some of our contacts. And the valedictorian and salutatorian of that class were both Japanese Americans, and they received their degrees from Harold Weaver, who was the president who hired me, at Arboga internment camp, or actually a temporary camp. He drove there and presented their degrees to them. And so we've had a very long history. It was 20% of the graduating class was interned and not allowed to graduate. And of course, when those folks came back from camp, they may have entered the military, as Frank did, and served in the 442, or have come back and felt too old to go back to college. And it is that group that we wanted so much to learn from and also to honor. I also wanted to share with you the meaning of the kanji, because I think that you are about the business that the Standing Guard is about. The first character is for eyes, and the last character here is a guard who has his bow drawn, but not pointed at anyone, but is ever vigilant, ever watchful of the rights of all of us. And that's, I think, the thing that we have learned in working with our community members and also in the impact on students to see what happened to a group of citizens that hopefully will never happen again. Without taking more of your time, though it is something I love to talk about, as you might guess, as a teacher, I want to introduce to you Marie Hayashida, whose husband, Jack Hayashida, also received an honorary degree, and Marie's 4 children, Marie and Jack's 4 children, were graduates of Sierra College also. So you can see the community impact, and to my right, then after Marie speaks, would like to introduce you to Frankie Guetta, who served in the 442 while his family was interned at Tule Lake. Marie?
Well, I guess I'll start with the fact that we had 4 children in 5 years, which was one thing. But then when the time came to educate them, they're all in college. Oh, well, anyway, they all went to Sierra College and went on to get 22 years of college education. And Sierra College was a very important stepping stone for each one for various reasons. But when we were awarded this diploma in 07, it was not that meaningful for me, but it was for my husband, because he was the only one in the family who did not have a college degree. He just went 1 year at Sierra College, and that was it. He was too busy raising his family. But I'm sure he would have been happy to the court to think that he finally is not the only one without a college degree. But it's just the thing I really would like people to realize that Sierra College was the very first one to give out these honorary degrees, and that was in 07, and they finally did it in last year. But Sierra College was the first, and what made it more meaningful was that ceremony took place on my husband's birthday. Although he wasn't there to receive it, but I'm sure he finally felt like, I'm the only one without a college degree in this family. He used to say that all the time, but Sierra College was a very important stepping stone for each of my children. And as I say, they got 22 years of college education. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
This is kind of a surprise. I just, I thought I just came for the ride. But one thing I want to mention was I'm a pretty staunch JCL, and Warren's name is pretty well in there every issue. And he's to me, a man like him that has so much love for his fellow men. Sure appreciate it. And since I came here, I was cued in to say something, and the only thing I can say is that Deb and Rebecca were the key persons that started this standing guard project, and as they advanced, I kept noticing that, my God, you know, we're not a very big area in Floudock County, but I don't know, we seem to have got more respect because someone is helping us. And that's what I wanted to convey, is that we appreciate all your help, and whatever you do will be real meaningful to us. And my brother, he was in the 442 too, and I never met up with him because he got banged up, and I was still dodging bullets. And I don't know, overall, I don't think our family was ever bitter about being interned, but we're pretty happy now, and we're getting along in age. You know, we're getting pretty daggone old. And to expect a guy like me to remember what I'm supposed to say, that's a big project.
Well, on that note, I will thank you both for coming today so we can see the recipients, and thank you for your guests. Our board members wanting to talk, Member Baum.
I do have a couple of comments. I serve on the board of Pasadena City College. First off, I want to thank Assemblymember Itani for his vocal leadership, both in Sacramento and Los Angeles. I remember marching with students to Pershing Square and seeing him speak before a crowd of 5,000 students to try to get open the doors to access for community colleges, and he's been a tremendous leader. I've passing out I had the privilege, and it was a blessing, to have served a term as president of the board of Pasadena City College, and the most meaningful action that I believe I took as president of that board was to award a diploma to a high school student. Pasadena City College in the 30s and 40s was also a high school, and the most meaningful action I took was to right a wrong that had been committed against this individual who was interned and never had the opportunity to receive his high school diploma. So I just wanted to underscore how important this is and how fortunate we are to actually acknowledge you while you're still here, and the families of those who are doing that. Pasadena City College is one of the top schools where we have identified a number of Nisei students that we hope to award diplomas, and we've actually set up a website that will help, we hope, allow people to connect and identify, because that's the biggest challenge right now, is identifying the individuals or their family members. And we intend to pursue that and honor those students, thanks to the legislation that Assemblymember Itani had. And also, we're being vocal with the media and publicly promoting that this is going on. And in today's Pasadena Star News, the lead editorial is about this action, and hopefully we'll continue to get the word out and reach as many of these students as possible. So I'm just so grateful that for the leadership of the Assembly member and also the individuals in Sierra College for their leadership in making this happen. And as a Board of Governors member, I'm hoping we continue to support this as we can.
Thank you for your comments. Board Member Izumi.
Thank you for the promotion. But I want to echo what Member Baum said, and also what Mr. Guetta said about Assemblymember Itani. He's been a leader in the Japanese American community for many years, and I've been glad to work with him from time to time. And I think that what Dean Sutro was saying about that this movement crosses both political and partisan lines, so that during the redress movement years ago, that you had people from both parties, different political persuasions and philosophical, thinking, all coming together, though, to, support something that obviously, as you say, Assemblymember Itani, was a wrong that needed to be redressed. And so the fact that we now see the fruition of all these things in this particular project because of your legislation, with diplomas given to people like Mrs. Hayashida and Mr. Guetta, I think is great testimony to, both your efforts, but also for the perseverance of people within the community and who have, focused on this issue that more people do need to know about. And it's that book that's going around about the stories, I think, is something that needs to be told so that all Americans understand that they have a stake in these sorts of principles that are being debated. So thank you very much for all your efforts, and congratulations to the both of you for your diplomas, and to Sierra College for what they've done.
Absolutely. Any other comments from the board? Well, thank you very much for coming here today, and we appreciate your guests. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
We are now going to break for lunch, and since it's 5 minutes to 12, I think we could be back here at 12:45 to start our meeting again.